I have a 3D printer, a background in engineering, and absolutely no business making press-on nails. And yet, here we are. For the past couple of years, I've been working on something kind of specific, designing and 3D printing custom press-on nails. Not buying them, not using a kit with nail tips, but designing them myself from scratch in CAD to fit one person's hands perfectly. Mine. I'm not there yet, but I think I'm getting kind of close to something actually interesting. And I wanted to document this before it gets good, so that you can see the whole journey from the very beginning. Quick background on me. I've been working in the 3D printing world for about 10 years now, developing new applications, launching end use products, and most recently, helping to build a 3D printing service bureau. Printing for me isn't really a hobby, it's more like a lens. When I see a problem, my first thought is, how can I solve that with 3D printing? In the past, that's meant printing COVID swabs, making assemblies for things that are broken around the house, and designing things just for fun, like purses and shoes. I'm not, for the record, a nail girlie. I don't wear press-ons or go to the salon. It's just not something that's authentic to who I am. But a few years ago, I became obsessed with the idea of creating a perfect fitting press-on nail, tailored to each person with a unique design on the top surface or at the tip. For me, this project is about pushing the bounds of the technology to help create a vessel for creativity. I want to build an engine that allows me to more easily make the designs that are in my head. So I started designing nails in SolidWorks, which, if you don't know what that is, it's an engineering CAD software, primarily used by engineers to create assemblies, enclosures, brackets, really functional things. Using it to design nails was a little bit like trying to paint a portrait with a screwdriver. Technically possible, deeply inefficient. And you can see that in the results. The nails were interesting, but something was just off with them. The shapes kind of worked, some of the surface designs I actually liked. I did a lot of vertical lines, wave textures, spikes, really clean geometric stuff. And I had a few friends wear them to events like weddings and graduations, which felt like a real milestone. But there were two big problems. Number one, the fit. Getting a nail shape that actually looks correct on a finger is a lot harder than it sounds. SolidWorks is just not the right tool for designing complex curves and bends, and you can see that in the nails. They look too big, they look too small, the bend isn't right, there are a million tiny problems. And two, every time I wanted to change something, I had to change it at least 5 times for the 5 sizes of my fingers. I'd gather feedback, realize I need to change one thing, like the curve at the tip of the nail, and I'd have to open each individual file, make that change across all 5 sizes. Now repeat that for every iterative design process, and suddenly you've lost hours of your day making minuscule but important changes. This was not a sustainable workflow for someone who wants to make a lot of nails and be very responsive to feedback. It also didn't support the rate at which I wanted to create. I felt very held back, like the design software was an obstacle instead of a tool to enable my creativity. So over Christmas break, I started playing around with Rhino and Grasshopper. Grasshopper is a visual programming tool that runs inside of Rhino. It lets you build parametric workflows, which basically means that you can define the rules and relationships for your parts. And then you just turn the dials. For example, you could design a rectangle and dictate that the length is always 3 times the width. Every time you change the width, the length will adjust accordingly. So I built a workflow that takes in nail sizing parameters, things like curvature, length, width, how much the nail tapers and thickness, and it generates all 5 nails at once, correctly scaled for each finger. Change one number, everything updates. Here's how it works. I add all my parameters to an Excel sheet for every single finger. It could be 5, it could be 25, it doesn't really matter. I connect that Excel file to my Rhino workflow, and it automatically reads the parameters, generates the individual 3D files, and then deposits them into a folder in my computer, ready for printing. This has been a massive breakthrough for me. But there's a second part that I'm equally excited about. Along with changing the sizing parameters, I can take any 2D image and use it to texture the top surface of the nail. The workflow reads the image, which is usually in black and white, and converts it into a 3D surface. So whatever is in that image becomes the nail design. It could be a drawing, a pattern, a photo, almost anything. That's the thing that I think changes what's possible here. Because now the design space isn't limited by what I can manually model. It's limited by what images exist, which is essentially unlimited. But I do want to be upfront. This workflow is not perfect. There's the fact that the nails that I print are clear and still need to be painted. There's also still a lot of work to do on the actual fit to get the feel of the nail just right. But I can kind of start to see the future now. I can see what this could become. And that's a really different feeling from where I was just a few months ago. What I want to make eventually is nails that are genuinely insane. Not just pretty, but structurally interesting, technically ambitious, the kind of thing that shouldn't exist as a press on nail, but does. Multi part designs, things that take real engineering to pull off and will push me to become a better designer along the way. And I want to document the whole process of getting there, the failures, of which there's already been many, the iterations, and hopefully the moment where something great is created. Here's where you come in. I am genuinely learning the nail side of this as I go, and I don't yet have a strong compass for what makes a nail work. That's actually an area where I'd rather take direction than guess. So if you have thoughts, I want to hear them. What would you actually want to see made? If this sounds like something you want to follow along with, then stick around. I'll be back when I have something worth showing.